Hi, I'm Kieu Pham Gray, and I've been asked to talk about my least favorite question, what it is that I do for a living. Why is it my least favorite question? Because when I go to answer it, it's never the expected answer. People expect something like sales or engineering, or heck, concert pianist is a heck of a lot easier for people to grasp than I'm a jewelry instructor. Because they always, every time I say that, look at me like, seriously? You actually do this full time? And the answer is yes, I do. I do it full time all year long. But then inevitably the conversation turns to, so you make jewelry for a living? And I don't necessarily even admit to that. Because for me the answer is I develop jewelry for classes. Not necessarily that I make jewelry, because there's so much more that I have to think about than just making a piece of jewelry when I'm doing development. So the easier question for me to answer, and the question I like to answer most, is how do you do that? So how do I do that? It's a full-time process where all year long I am always looking for inspiration for my surroundings. Whether it's in the architecture or in nature or even in wall hangings, I'm constantly looking at my surroundings for inspiration that might come into a 3D form. And I keep with me a notebook like this one where I sketch my ideas from those inspirations and take notes. Because I don't make jewelry all the time, I actually schedule it into my year to sit down for a week or two and then finally work on the projects. And by then, I don't want to start from scratch. So I have my notes and I start processing through it. And the process is such that I look at the project or my sketch, I consider the technique that I'm trying to highlight, then I consider the materials that I will need for it, and whether or not it will be readily available a year from now, because that's when it'll finally see a classroom. And I have to ensure that it's going to be available, because there's been plenty of times when the vendor has evaporated, and then finally there's the photo. So I've created this piece, it's in a 3D form, I'm pretty happy with it, it seems to have worked, and I have to take a photo of it. What happens there is sometimes the piece is so simplistic in a photograph that it doesn't pass the test. Because if you can't convey what you're trying to say in that photograph, if I can't convey it to myself, I'm not going to be able to convey it to anybody else either. And that's where it fails. So sometimes 3 or 4 hours worth of work just went down the drain. Yep, it's happened plenty. But then once I put together enough projects, usually between 15 and 20 projects in a year, I send it off to the conferences or facilities around the country, and they will review the portfolio and they choose what they think is appropriate for their audience or what they might be interested in, and it gets published, thrown out to the public, where the final verdict is, or the final jury is. And through registration or lack thereof, that's how I know whether or not I have a success on my hands. Because of course, if no one registers for the class, it's bombed. For me, the most challenging part of my job is to marry all of these components together: materials, technique, photo, audience, conference. And it's not always a success. What I think is good is not always what the audience thinks is good. There have been plenty of times when I looked at a project like, yes, this is the winner. And inevitably, there's always one that I think is a winner that's a loser. And what I think is just okay is a big winner. So, of course, the question is, why is it that I put out what I thought was just okay? Because I understand that style is very individual, that not everybody will like my style. So I design with other styles in mind. And what I do make sure, and that I feel strongly about for the projects that I think are okay, is that the technique is solid and that you're going to walk away with a skill, something. There's that is the takeaway, is that skill, that technique. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found a little inspiration in that, and I hope to see you in class. Thanks for listening.